All right, so Alex Walker, a Democrat running for Colorado's 3rd district to try to unseat Representative Lauren Boebert, who is really up there with like Marjorie Taylor Greene and being one of the most insufferable and deranged members of Congress. And yet somehow this guy right here, Alex Walker, is proving himself in a series of TikToks he posted over the last couple of days, as you're about to see here, to be somehow even more unlikable than even Lauren Boebert. So in these clips, warning ahead of time, this is some of the most cringe shit that you're going to see in a while, but he basically is just railing against, I guess, leftists who he absolutely despises and doesn't really care if they vote for him or not. So let's go ahead and hear what he had to say here.
I love when people are like,
"You have a moderate policy, you lost my vote."
"Oh, what vote was that? Was that the vote you were going to give to some Bernie wannabe whose overkill policies are unpopular with 75% of voters, just so you could feel good about yourself until they lose the general election, at which point you'll point your finger and blame someone else? That vote? Oh, honey, your vote got lost a long time ago. Democrats need to wake up. Jesus, in order to legislate, we have to win. Go to walkerforcolorado.com and stop complaining."
Woo!
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, if there's one thing that average working class people in the United States love, it's an annoying liberal condescendingly talking down to them in the most absurd ways possible. Okay, so he's not even trying here, right? I mean, if the idea is that you're running as a Democrat, you kind of need the whole base of support that supports the Democratic Party, namely young people and people who have more left-wing views. I mean, he's trying to cast aside the entire Bernie Sanders movement as if, you know, that was some tiny little fraction of the population that he doesn't need to pay attention to, and he did it in a way that was not only condescending and annoying, but also in a way that was just factually inaccurate. So, you know, what policies specifically are you talking about here? Because he talks about, you know, these supposed really unpopular policies that are being promoted by the radical left, and they're so unreasonable. And, you know, me, Alex Walker, I'm going to be the moderate who comes in and actually gets stuff done. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not unique rhetoric. We've seen this deployed by all sorts of different corporate Democrats through especially throughout the last couple of years. But again, he's not even really trying to earn the votes, and he's doing it in a completely inaccurate way. So what specific policies would you be talking about? Are you talking about Medicare for all, which according to some polls has upwards of 69% of support? Nice, but 69% of support for Medicare for all here. I've seen polls upwards of 70%. I've seen polls, you know, at least a majority of the American people support having a healthcare system that, instead of allowing, you know, private for-profit health insurance companies to essentially act as a mafia middleman and rob them blind and bankrupt them on a regular basis, yeah, it's not really surprising that a majority of the country would think we could do a little bit better than the current healthcare system we have right now, that is the single most expensive and least efficient in terms of health outcomes healthcare system that exists in the world right now. Seems like we could do a little bit better, and it seems like maybe running on a policy like Medicare for all could be something that could actually, I don't know, help your campaign. But no, he just, I guess, in a blanket way, casts aside every single Bernie Sanders policy as if it's wildly unpopular, just factually inaccurate. Again, just another example here. He didn't really give any specificity, so I'm bringing out the ones that people like to sensationalize all the time. But even when you go with something like the Green New Deal, which is constantly railed against as this radical, crazy proposal, well, here from Data for Progress, a majority of voters support the Green New Deal. Okay, so when you lay it out for them and you just explain what it is, as they did here, then you have upwards of 60% support and only 29% oppose. And guess what? That's not just Democrats, that's also independents and even 36% of Republicans. And so I like the way that they framed it in this question because it's an honest framing of what the Green New Deal is. But here's how you would make this argument, right? Some lawmakers are reintroducing the Green New Deal, a proposal modeled off of the New Deal programs created by President FDR during the Great Depression. A Green New Deal would put tens of millions of people to work in good-paying union jobs, modernizing our infrastructure, making it more resilient to extreme weather, and slowing the pace of climate change. The Green New Deal would also center frontline communities who have been disproportionately impacted by climate change and pollution in decision-making and resource allocation. Do you support or oppose this? And again, it's overwhelming. It's not even really fucking close, but guessing this is a guy who wouldn't exactly support this radical, crazy, leftist Bernie Sanders proposal. But we can just do one more here. Majority of voters support free college and eliminating student debt. So again, he didn't give any specificity, so I'm just assuming he's against the entire Bernie Sanders agenda. And he actually did another TikTok here following up on some of the backlash that he got from this original one. So let's go ahead and hear what he had to say, saying that he's, you know, canceled by the left flank here. So let's go ahead and see what his response was.
Yesterday, I got canceled for making the outrageous claim that ultra-progressive candidates can't win in blood red districts like mine, and that if you vote for one, you're throwing your vote away. Yeah. Every vote matters, but don't throw yours away on some ultra-liberal pipe dream who has no shot just to make yourself feel warm and fuzzy at night. In order to legislate, Democrats must win. And in order to win, we need to nominate candidates who represent the district and play smart with common sense policies that can win. Not some platform designed to placate your overwoke Twitter temper tantrum pipe dreams. And we need someone strong enough to stand up to the bullshit, including Lauren Boebert's bullshit, but also including the bullshit in our own party trying to tear down Democrats with a shot. TLDR, I'm not sorry, and I've got my eye on the only prize that matters, winning for all of us. Yesterday.
So, I mean, again, he's not only insufferable, but he's just wrong on the face of it. I mean, if you go look at the results of the 2020 election, the most recent election that we had in this country, and you go and look at who won disproportionately and who overperformed and who underperformed within the Democratic Party, it was consistently corporate Democrats who were underperforming in the election. It wasn't, the AOCs of the world. It wasn't the, actual semi-leftists within Congress. They all swept. I mean, if you go look at the data, every single supporter of Medicare for All, every single one of them won re-election in 2020. So how are you going to pretend as if progressives can't win elections? It's complete bullshit. But that's the kind of narrative that he's trying to craft here, and in doing so, intentionally trying to, isolate and cut off basically the entire base of the Democratic Party in young people, again, and others that working class people who have more progressive and left-wing economic values. He's just completely casting them aside as if he doesn't want their support. I mean, I guess go for it if you want. That's the kind of strategy of campaign that you want to run here. You're going to get absolutely fucking clobbered because, again, you're cutting off the vast majority of not only voters within the Democratic Party who support the policies you're railing against, but also the majority of the American people who, again, support the popular policies that you're talking about here. But again, he didn't really give many specifics, so I actually went and looked at his campaign website. Again, not very into the specificity here, but just a couple examples on healthcare and the economy. He says his economic policy leans right. So he says the right supports low taxes to promote consumer spending, which in theory creates a healthy economy. This is called supply side economics. And the left supports higher taxes to fund public services and expand federal protections. So, I mean, he's accurately somewhat identifying that, yeah, the left supports higher taxes on the wealthy and higher taxes on corporations, not on working class people, but taxing the rich in this country to fund public services and expand federal protections. So exactly what is your problem with this strategy? I mean, how are you going to position yourself on the right against something as common sense and basic as this? I mean, if you were to put this in a poll and ask the American people if they support something like this, it would probably be 80 to 90% would say, hell yeah, we should tax the rich and then use that to bolster investments in healthcare and education and other social programs. Of course we should fucking do that. Those are some of the most popular policies that exist in the country. But he continues saying, I agree with supply side economics. People should spend their money as they see fit. This means lower taxes. Okay, but lower taxes for who exactly? And they say, look, the government can barely get out of bed in the morning. One day, maybe it can use $5 trillion in taxes effectively. That day is not today. Families struggle while the government bickers over bourbon in smoky rooms. So yeah, I mean, the government is massively fucking corrupt. We all know this, but that's a leftist critique of the government. The reason why our government is bloated and inefficient and dumps, $5 trillion in $5 trillion in taxes into inefficient and ineffective programs. The reason why that's happening is because capitalists, corporations, billionaires are bribing our entire political system. The same politicians that take bribes from these corporations are then blocking the actual reforms that would fix the problem that you're talking about here. And again, this guy is a very right-wing Democrat, so he is going to be taking corporate donations. So you are the problem. I mean, you are literally the key problem with our political system. You are accepting corporate donations in order to go and act on behalf of corporate America at the expense of average working class people, while you simultaneously give them a double middle finger and tell them that you don't even want them to be a part of your campaign. I mean, it's a complete fucking joke. But again, the core root of what he's saying here is true, because yeah, the government is bloated and inefficient and corrupt, but that's because of right-wing policy initiatives. That's because of deregulation, both in the economic sector that allows for a massive explosion of monopolies and a dominance by the capitalist class in this country, not only over the economic structure of our system, but also in the political system. I mean, he's identifying the problem and then also saying, by the way, I'm right-wing on economics and I'm going to worsen the problems that I'm identifying here. It's a complete fucking joke. But it gets even worse on healthcare. He says, bear with me that his policy leans right. And he says the right supports lower taxes and fewer public programs, including less control over how or if you find healthcare. Okay, fair. The left supports public programs mandating how and if you find healthcare. No, that's not accurate. Supports public programs mandating how and if you find healthcare. No, a program like Medicare for All isn't mandating or telling you exactly who you can go seek healthcare from. It's the exact opposite of that. Right now, our privatized for-profit healthcare system system is the one where your health insurance company can tell you, no, you can't go see that doctor, no, you can't go to this hospital, etc., or else we're going to make you pay the entire bulk of it and we're not going to cover the cost of it. Those are private insurance companies that are restricting your medical freedom to have the ability to go to doctors and different hospitals and different, seek different care that you want to. It's under a Medicare for all system that you wouldn't have those same restraints, because it would be a single insurance policy for everyone in the country, and you have access to every single doctor you want to go to, any single hospital or whatever care you want to get. That's the whole point of a Medicare for all system. It is much more free than our current system, but of course he's trying to portray it as if it's like some scary government mandate and they're going to be doing these programs to decide if you find healthcare. No, a Medicare for all program would guarantee that you can find healthcare. It's under our current system that people are restricted from accessing that healthcare due to the size of their wallet, essentially. But he says one solution is Medicare for all, single payer healthcare, or universal healthcare. They're basically all the same thing, sure. And he says both sides have a point. Both sides have a point. Do they really now? Republicans are right to question whether the government can effectively build Medicare for all in its current state. And as mentioned in my economic policy, I also think the government currently sucks at getting hard things done. The government sucks at getting hard things done. I mean, again, why? Why does the government suck? Because they're being bribed by the private sector. But he doesn't mention any of that. He just says it's intrinsic to the nature of all governments everywhere, as if every other developed country on the face of the planet doesn't have some various form of a single-payer healthcare system. We're the only country in the world, in the developed world among OECD nations, we're the only country that has the privatized for-profit system that we have right now, and we're getting shitty results from it. So what the fuck is the argument here? I mean, again, he's identifying that the government is bloated and corrupt, but isn't identifying the core reason why it's bloated and corrupt and inefficient. But again, he continues here saying, so I believe in keeping the private marketplace, okay, absolute ghoul. So no Medicare for all, hence leaning right, while holding insurance companies accountable, I'm sure you will, and adding a public option. I believe in taxing corporations their fair share for once, not exactly sure what that is, and he doesn't get into any of the details in terms of that, and using the additional tax revenue to subsidize prescription drug costs and care. So again, he's completely garbage on the policies, and not only that, but he's not even making convincing arguments here, because he's disingenuously framing what the system of Medicare for all would actually do for people. So listen, this guy is an absolute ghoul, and genuinely, maybe this is feeding into his own, perceived attacks or victimhood from the left, but I genuinely don't want this guy to win. I mean, not only would I not show up to vote for this guy, but you're completely insufferable. You are making, by comparison, somehow one of the most deranged members of Congress, Lauren Boebert, look, semi-normalized relative to you, because not only is your economic platform completely whack, not only is your healthcare policy platform completely whack, but you're also intentionally setting out to conduct a campaign to tell the people who make up the bulk of the Democratic base to not vote for you, and then condescendingly telling them that, oh, they're throwing away their vote if they don't show up to vote for you, a corporate Democrat who's going to do absolutely nothing to materially improve their lives. It's just an embarrassing campaign strategy, and if this is the future of the Democratic Party, then not exactly something that I would want to be a part of.